Greetings one and all to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet, a YouTube channel content creator, actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital worlds. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar. We're going to try reading another creepypasta, so I have my phone out. We're going to click on creepypasta.com. It's been a while since I've done these. I actually wasn't planning on doing any more of these, but I just felt like it. The latest creepypasta story, Lake Retreat by Dranek. Average rating is a 7. It was released on September 11, 2022. And we might do a few. I might do one more after this. Right now we somehow opened an ad, so let's close that. Eventually. Are you ever going to let... I'm trying to go back to the site. So I watch the loading bar move so slowly. Okay. Lake Retreat. Estimated reading time, 18 minutes. A rattled knob echoed throughout the lifeless space. It traveled across a familyless living room, bounced around the cabinets of a foodless kitchen, and wandered down a dark hallway to a sleepless bedroom. It rattled again, a stubborn old key, an even older lock, then finally the teeth finally fit just right. The door sang from its hinges as it opened. A man and a woman stood in the open frame. I heard my washing machine. Be back in a second. I'm back. Who says I can't multitask? A man and a woman stood in the open frame, about to take a leap into a world of renewal. The man entered first, not because chivalry is dead, but rather in new territory he probably wanted to be the first to make sure it was okay. He took a few steps in, and then took a breath and sighed. He dropped the heavy-looking duffel from his shoulder, and at the same time released his grip on a striped tote bag. "So what do you think?" he spoke, with a sense of pride. They had made it, a trek across the state. A couple from Boston looking to find something, anything, out in the rural Brookshires. "Seems fine," a female voice, a bit droll. In the throat, tired perhaps. She marched around him, dropped a small purse under the couch, and looked around. The walls were grey. The carpet was a light shade of mint. She soaked that all in. This wasn't luxury. This was just a normal-looking place, with a normal set of expectations. "I want to check out that lake. I think I saw a float," the man said. "What do you say, babe? Maybe get a little skinny dipping in later, huh? "In your dreams," she replied. Her voice wasn't playful like his. "Alright. Maybe just a cannonball contest then." He seemed to be grasping for humor. Her shoulders shrug meant she wasn't amused. The man, who looked to be late 30s, wandered down the hall, poking his nose into the bathroom. "Whoa. Holy 80s, Batman," he said under his breath. "What, Nick?" Her voice changed stuttered. "Oh, nothing, babe. Just check out these wild tiles in here." He looked around at the black and white checkered pattern on the floor, the pink bathtub, and the mint green accent. What did I say before? She spoke with a firm tone. Yeah, sorry, habits. Anyway, pretty gnarly, huh? Like a child trying to remain happy after being scolded. He continued to marvel at the tile work. Yeah, I guess. This place is skeeving me. Oh, a little, she supplied. He kept moving down the hall and entered the bedroom. It was almost dead silent as the two independently explored the small retreat. His voice startled her. Babe, Becky? Come quick. She moved in a heightened state, only to see that Nix was gazing out at a large glass sliding door, down through some thin pines, to the body of water below. She joined him in staring. Hey, not bad. Becky's words caused Nick to smile, but she was resistant to that facial expression. The pair moved their bags into the bedroom and changed the place up as they left. They returned long after the sun had set, and judging by their speech, they both had a few drinks. I'm exhausted. Good night, Becky said, wandering like a dizzy child down to the bedroom. She pulled the top cover off the bed and tossed it haphazardly into the corner of the room and gave the bed a quick scan for anything unusual. She hopped in and was practically snoring before Nick could even finish using the bathroom. He stood in the hallway with a puzzled look in the direction of the bedroom. Okay, I guess I'll take the couch, he said. To no listening ears, Nick scooped up the thrown bedspread and laid it on the love seat. His feet extended beyond the arm of the couch. His body made a V shape, but he appeared to be so tired that it didn't really matter. The condominium laid quietly as the pair communicated in snores from the opposite ends. Becky looked like an angel while she slept. Around 3 a.m., after the moon had already peeked in the sky, Nick's eyes opened and shot up from the couch. The blanket was bundled around his legs, and he tugged on it to free himself from the net. He stood above where he once was laying, not on the floor, but on the couch. His eyes were wide, but he was completely silent. He stepped down and made steps around the love seat and end table that sat in the middle of the room. He walked slowly in circles. He seems to have glommed onto the easy choice, starting earlier than normal. He does that, picks the hopeless, weak-willed, so easy to bend, so desperate for something, anything. Hope is an open channel, welcoming both joy and disappointment alike, and in this case, it has welcomed him. Nick continued to walk in the same pattern over and over. The 3 o'clock hour turned into 4 and then 5, and finally 6. His pace began to waver. He was walking for miles and going nowhere. Redacted. Despite his lack of mental control, his body wasn't conditioned for this. Finally, around 6:45, he fell over at the base of the couch and laid there, drifting back to sleep. Brackets DL. Becky woke and lowed in bed for a while. Price was to be laid. When she finally arose, she found Nick asleep on the floor. Nick, she approached him slowly. She got onto a knee and nudged him. He was apprehensive to be awake. You're on the floor, hun. Nick replied with a mumble. You called me hun. He smiled with a drunken smile. Becky stood up, used the bathroom, and went back into the bedroom to continue her early morning slumber. Nick rose to his feet, slowly shaking. He scanned the room. Something seemed to have been piquing his interest. As he scratched his head, he seemed to have some recollection of this room, but probably not enough to make sense of it. He slowly got dressed, grabbed the car keys from the counter, and left through the door. Less than an hour later, he returned, an iced coffee in each hand, a plastic grocery bag dangling off one wrist, and a white paper bag dangling from his clenched teeth. It was a miracle that he was able to open the door. He put the drinks on the counter, dropped the bag from his mouth, and rested the groceries on the floor. Nick peeked down the hall toward the bedroom. Babe? Bex. Coming. A quiet voice replied. Nick, waiting in the kitchen, looked out the window in the direction of the lake. Childish fantasies of splashing the cool, fresh water danced in his mind. Probably. The white bag ruffled open, and his attention was brought back to reality. Becky reached into the cafe to-go bag and pulled out a breakfast delight. Bacon, egg, and cheese, everything bacon. Just the way my lady likes it, Nick said with enthusiasm. What about for you? She asked. Oh no, for me, something even better. Nick replied with a childish grin. He reached down and sprang up with a box of cereal in his hand and a small carton of milk. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, baby. Nick then looked around each cabinet, hunting for the tools needed to complete his breakfast. Jackpot, he had found the bowls. Aren't you going to wash that first? I wouldn't trust that it's clean, Becky said. Nick just shrugged his shoulders and filled the bowl up. Well, hope you won't be puking your brains out tonight. Nick emphasized his enjoyment of this cereal. So fucking good. They both stood in the kitchen, fueling their bodies with coffee and breakfast goodies. Becky looked around. This place is pretty dull. Not a single piece of art or anything on the walls. Did you notice that? Nick was too focused on the Cinnamon Toast Crunch and didn't really hear her. Then she looked up at the ceiling. What the heck is that? A massive smoke detector? Yeah, I saw that before too. Nick was engaged now. I figured it was cameras watching our every move, he joked. Well, they're getting some good footage. A middle-aged man eating cereal, she replied with a snicker. I saw it in the bedroom too. Maybe they'll get to see a little action tonight? Wah chicka wah wah? Nick continued. Wait. Did you say middle-aged? First of all, I'm not even 40 yet. And second of all, we are the same age. He playfully defended himself. Yeah, well, the way you complain about your back all the time, you might as well be 60. She replied, sparking a chuckle out of both of them. Hey, check out this closet I looked in earlier. Nick opened the door in the corner of the kitchen. It's the torture chamber for me, bitch. Really? Nick was from Austria all of a sudden. Okay. Why would a rental place have all of that? Becky sounded a little perplexed. Don't know, but that axe will be good if I have to go out lumberjacking while we are here. Nick replied with a chuckle. I got a plaid shirt and a can of instant beer to go with it. The two continued to talk and joke with each other. Nick yawned a deep yawn. Geez, I'm beat already. That couch is brutal. I feel like I didn't get any sleep. I found you on the floor this morning, she replied. Yeah, and I had this weird dream. Like I was in a spinning tornado or something. The room was spinning. I don't know, really, but I think it was this room. Weird, he paused. Well, whatever, I want to jump in that water and get energized. He continued with another yawn. He was slowly being drained. That is his plan. A lion wears out the gazelle, and when too tired to run, it sinks its teeth in. That first taste of blood is enough to remind him that the plan works. It can take time, but he is patient. The couple put on their swimming suits and left with their towels in hand. It wasn't long until they returned. I could have told you that the pond is contaminated. What a waste of time this is. Becky had an annoyance in her voice. Listen, I get it. You don't have to keep repeating it. Nick was on the defense. It wouldn't be long before he was worn thin as empty skin. Thin enough to slice into. I've just been trying to, come on, just give me a break, he continued. After a long pause, I just want to go home, she said with a deep sigh. The silence continued and Becky retreated to the bedroom at the end of the hall. Nick was left there at the kitchen counter, just shaking his head and rubbing his face. By looking at him, you can tell him he's disappointed with decisions he has made. Probably not just this one. Across the condominium there was silence. Two people separated by more than just walls. Becky must have fallen asleep. Almost an hour had passed and Nick was still in the same location. Same position. Leaning on the kitchen counter. Then all of a sudden he picked his pathetic head up and shook it back and forth. Burst seemingly to crack his neck and regain composure. But he didn't stop there. His face looked like it was in agony as he continued to twist his neck back and forth. His hands grasped at the air on the counter and twisted into crippled humming. Back and forth, side to side. His head twisted and turned. It shook and heaved. His pupils went looking for his brain. and nothing but white shined through. He was spasming, convulsing, tremoring, seizure, most likely experiencing pain beyond anything he has ever felt, and unable to verbally express any of it. His mouth was wide open, but he didn't make a sound. Then, just as suddenly as he started to spasm, the spasm stopped. Nick looked around the kitchen. He opened each drawer, one by one, looking for something. Something sharp, perhaps. On the fourth drawer, he revealed a shiny chef's knife. He studied it, marveled at its sheen. He began to press it into his forearm, that was now flat on the table. A steak being prepared for the lion's jaws. Then the toilet flushed and Nick snapped out of it. He had barely made a dent in his arm. Apparently Becky wasn't asleep after all. Nick looked at the shallow cut in his arm with confusion as Becky appeared around the corner. She hadn't noticed yet. "What are you doing?" she asked. Nothing," he replied, scrambling to get his arm under the kitchen sink to wash off the small amount of blood. "Cut yourself?" she said mockingly. What? No, I don't know," he stammered. "Huh?" She was now confused as she approached Nick with his arm still under the water. "Wait, you did cut yourself. What the hell, Nick? What happened?" She was now concerned. "I don't know. I think I dozed off and scratched on something." "It's nothing," he said, as he found a dish towel to dry off. He wants his limb. "You're exhausted. I hate it here. Let's just go." The annoyance in Becky's voice was palpable. She wanted to end this retreat, but it wasn't time yet. "Why are you giving me such a hard time?" Nick was starting to get a little agitated. "What?" she replied. I said, "Why are you giving me such a fucking hard time?" Nick was now angry. "All I have been doing is trying to fix this, and you are not receptive to anything I am trying." Becky just stood there and stared at him. "This vacation sucks, Nick. Don't be such a dick about it." "I'm not being a dick. I'm trying to be your fucking husband." Nick lashed back. "You haven't put in any effort. Not 1 ounce." "Are you kidding me right now?" Becky's voice started out. "I'm sorry, I'm not like you, Nick. I can't just move on as easily as you have. I can't just bounce back and pretend like everything's okay. I can't either. And I'm sorry, but Jesus Christ, babe. Please throw me a fucking bone." Nick began to sound desperate. "Nick, look around. Our marriage is fucked. It's falling apart. There isn't anything we can do." Nick slammed his fists on the kitchen counter. "Fuck you. You're not willing." Becky's body twitched as the noise startled her. "Oh, you going to go psycho, huh? You tough guy?" Becky seemed to beckon his reach. The two once lovers stared at each other without speaking. Whatever. Nick stomped past Becky and went to the bedroom and plopped onto the bed. He was childish and it was showing. Becky deserved better. She deserved him. While Nick was laying at the bed, face down, Becky left through the front door and out into removed. You know, it's literally brackets that says removed in there, so you don't know. Darkness fell, and none of the lights were on. The condo was bleak, pale, and cold. Then, in brackets, it says IR. Nick flopped around in bed. He was restless but drained of energy. Then, through the darkness, a glowing light emanated through the balcony doorway. Nick rubbed his eyes as this glow caught his attention, like car headlights that shined through glass and sheer curtains. The entire room was set ablaze with white light. Nick put his hands over his face to shield himself from the glow. He winced and stumbled to his feet. His legs got caught up in the sheet of the bed, and he smashed his face into the floor as he struggled to stand up. Pathetic. Finally, he stood, still with his hands and arms in front of him, in a feeble attempt to block the intense light that grew with intensity. He yelped and turned to leave. Then a state of fusion ran his face to the edge of the door and was still ajar. His head flew back as he was hit. The light faded to a dim, still enough to shed the room, but not enough to blind. Nick put his hand to his face, and then above so he could see the blood that was beginning to pour from his nose. He slowly rose to his feet. His state of confusion leaked from his face more than his own blood. His attention focused down the hall. He leaned forward as if trying to see and comprehend something blurry and baffling. Jamie? He slowly crept down the hall. Jamie, is that you? What? His head slowly shook back and forth. What are you doing here? He left a trail of blood droplets on the mint hallway carpet. No. He dropped to his knees and gripped the floor. Seeing his own bloody handprints seemed to have inspired him. He got onto his feet once again, dipped his fingers into the red palette below his nose, and turned the empty hallway into his own Van Gogh. Swinging his hands around like a maniac, painting on the walls like a misbehaving child, he continued till exhaustion came over him, and like a child, curled up on the floor in the hallway. The tremendous light fizzled to a glint and disappeared. An hour passed. Darkness soaked in and removed. The door swung open and Becky quickly entered. Nick. Her voice was heightened, and she hadn't yet noticed the scene in the hallway. She was a little frazzled. She deliberately locked the door, all while rummaging through her purse, but still maintained her classic beauty. Nick, we have to leave here now. Still no answer. Her lame husband was still on the floor in the hall. As she scanned the room, she froze, stunned, then the entire condominium filled with her screams. Every corner, her voice still sounded sweet. Nick! She rushed toward him. He began to stir as she grabbed and holstered him into a holy shit, what happened? Becky coddled him and ran her hands through his hair. Oh, hey, honey. He was delirious as he smiled up at her. Nick, what happened? Is this all from you? She gazed up the pool of red in the hallway and slowly shifted her view onto the wall. In front of her, it was covered in handprints and scrolls. What the fuck? She couldn't get the rest of the words out. Nick, what the fuck did you... Still searching and shaking her head back and forth, her voice began to quiver. Why did you write that name, Nick? Say something. Huh? Nick seemed to be trying to regain his vision. He squinted and rubbed his eyes, but the blood on his hands didn't help. Jamie. What the fuck, Nick? Why did you write that name on the wall in your own fucking blood? I didn't. Nick looked at his own doom. Oh shit. The realization of it was sitting in. Becky let him plop down on the ground. She stood up, hovering over him. He slowly got up too and faced her. A tear began to form, and then another. A trail made its way down her soft-looking cheeks into her model-esque chin. Becky is one of the most gorgeous women that he has picked. In fact, has even been too removed. What the fuck? She shoved Nick with both arms. He almost went back down to where he had been laying past hour. Are you going to say something, Nick? Nick had the same dumbfounded look. His stupid smug since he got there. Hello, will you please say something? She was irate and upset. That name triggered her. She no longer cared about the blood loss of her husband and wanted an answer. Becky, he just shook his head. Wash your face and we are leaving here right now, like an aggravated mother telling her child playtime is over. She rubbed away the last two tears from her cheeks and pushed past him. Nick went to the bathroom and meanwhile Becky was in the bedroom, shoving a loose clothing in the bag. Her body flinched as she started by a loud knock at the door. 3 loud knocks that sent a shiver down her spine. Don't open it, she yelled. Nick entered the hall and looked toward the living room. Another trio rapping in the door reverberated throughout the space. What? Nick, don't open it. Something weird is going on here. We have to leave, even if we have to climb out the back, Becky said in a low tone as she got behind him. The knocking continued. Louder this time. Becky, please tell me what is happening. I'm so confused right now. Nick's childlike tone echoed in his weakness. I don't know. I saw some people or something. I don't know. They were coming toward this building when I pulled up. They all had like hoods and candles and shit. Becky spoke as the knocking turned to pounding. What? Nick replied to Becky in a near whisper. Then in an effort to stand his ground, "Who is it, Nick?" with a deeper voice than he has been letting out for the past day and a half. The banging on the door stopped. Nick took steps toward the living room. "There is a glow coming through the door window," Nick said in a whisper. With each step Becky followed, clinging to his shirt. "Oh, shit!" Nick darted to the side, pulling backward. "Someone has fucking looked through the window." "Shit, shit, shit." "What do you mean?" Becky whispered in a panic. "In the little fucking window! Someone's face was pressed against it." "Did he see you?" "Yeah, he was fucking smiling at me. Oh, fuck." 3 gentle taps on the front door danced through the air in the room. Becky began to whimper. That poor sweet thing. Nick was practically pulling his hair out, unsure what to do. "Wait here," he said in a whisper. "No, no, 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 no," Becky pleaded, reaching for him as he darted away. He was bent at the waist. Rushed through the kitchen and disappeared. "Nick?" "Yeah, I call bullshit on the 18-minute thing. We're at 26 minutes. "Nick," she whispered between sobs. The next 3 knocks were longer and gentle. They practically shook the room. Becky was sobbing with her face in her hands. "Don't worry, sweet child. It will be over soon." After a moment, Nick emerged holding the axe from the kitchen closet. "We are getting the fuck out of here," Nick said boldly. "Silly, stupid man." Becky just stared at him. Okay, yeah, let's get out the balcony." Nick didn't move. He didn't do anything. He just stood there like his switch suddenly set to off. "Nick." Becky waited for a reply. "Nick." Becky slowly stood from her crouching stance. "Nick." But nothing. He didn't move. He stood there, frozen in time. Becky was speechless and waiting for something. Anything. Then finally his head tilted. He surveyed his arm, and one cut from earlier, just in its infancy of the healing process. "He needs this," Nick said in a calm tone. "Nick, what are you?" But she was cut off by the sound of Nick swinging the axe down on his own forearm. In that instant, he laid his right arm on the kitchen counter. Becky screamed in a panic. That sound was slightly fleshy, but mostly a rattling of the countertop in the cabinets below. Nick let out a grunt that emanated from deep from his bowels. He lifted the axe again, and with his left hand, swung back down onto his right. "No!" Becky screamed, this time covering her ears and cowering to a ball on the floor. The second whack did the trick. Nick fell backward on the kitchen floor, dropping the axe and gripping the elbow of his right arm. He stared at the spot where his forearm once was and continued into a hand, but now just ended abruptly and profusely gushed blood. He was in disbelief. He folded his left arm, and what was left of his right to his chest, and moaned in bewilderment. Becky crawled over to where he sat. "Oh God!" all she could muster. Nick began to turn pale as he cried, and he whispered, I'm so sorry I brought us here. I was just trying to save us. Oh God, look at us now." He paused as he looked around the flood of blood on the kitchen floor. "I just thought if we took some time away from it all, we get back to what we used to have." His coherent spirits drained, along with his blood and slurring began. "You were the love of my life, and I needed to get back to that." Becky's sobs grew louder, and she wrapped her arms around him. "I'm so sorry, but Becky, I have to tell you something." Nick looked at her. "I saw him. I saw our boy. Our beautiful boy. Before I saw him, our sweet little Jamie, I'm going to him. He said I could go to him now." And then there's a bunch of letter N's, and Nick slumps over. Becky shook her head and cried, hoping Nick could spot her. A rattling of keys in the front door knob filled the air, and the front door opened. Becky didn't want to look. She seemed to hold on to Nick's body tighter. One by one they entered the room. There's the part that's removed from this. "Becky," gazed up at the room of cloaked saviors, the chosen ones, the soldiers of enlightenment. In an effort of determination, she picked up the axe and swung frantically, her beautiful blonde hair waving in the air as she thrashed, and as they promptly overpowered her attempt, forced her down the hallway and shoved her out the balcony window. She screamed her last scream as she landed on the rocks below. The ceremony commenced, and he grew stronger. The flesh of Nick's arm is now the flesh of his arm. The beauty of Becky's spirit is now the furnace of his soul. He is nearly whole. IPSE. Oh, it's Latin. One of those words is literally come, though. I don't know what that translates to, but literally there's a 3-letter word, which is C-U-M, in the middle of all this Latin. Now that being said, I'm not going to say the Latin out loud, because I watched the movie Evil Dead, so Bruce Campbell has taught us all an important lesson. A dramatic transcription of camera footage from Hawk's Nest, ad removed, observed documented the Yan Kran Senior Center, edited by... So where did you say you found this? I felt his stare. On the side of the road, the highway. It was just blowing around in the wind. It looked as if someone had their window open and it blew out, you know, by accident or something, I replied. Sergeant Pierre had a stoic but baffled look on his face. What's written here is quite disturbing. He took a pause and rubbed his chin. He was clean-shaven except for a thick mustache. Why did you stop? Just because you saw these papers on the side of the highway? That's dangerous now. Well, actually, we were already stopped. He raised his eyebrows silently, asking for more details. He pulled over so I could take a leak. And then I saw the pieces of paper blowing around. Went to pick them up and read a little bit of it. I couldn't tell if it was fake or not. I don't know. I guess the way it was, it felt like it was real-ish. I felt dumb sitting there explaining why I was maybe wasting his time with a potentially fictitious but maybe not short story. So you just thought you would calm down and I mean, that would make sense. I mean, that seems logical. His questioning made me realize just how dumb I was for thinking this is real police. No, you weren't dumb to take that to the police. That's only logical. It's very suspicious what you found. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was now looking down at the stack of paper, wishing I'd never entered the police station. Honestly, I don't really know what to do here, he said sternly. Yeah, I'll get going. Sorry for waste. I was kind of... Well, hold on. Let me just ask the chief for something real quick. He collected the stack of papers and started to exit the office room. The bathroom was right out there, and water fountain beneath the thing. I felt like throwing up. I was so embarrassed that I really thought I'd stumbled upon some real and nefarious stuff. And I honestly felt like I was just trying to be a good citizen. You know, see something, say something, until they make you feel stupid for opening your mouth. I got up and made my way to the water fountain, hoping a sip of water would ease the churn in my belly. The police station looked like a ghost town. I always expected to see hustle and bustle on a big case, but not in this sleepy town of Berkshires. I took a swig straight from the water fountain, ignoring the little cups to it. As I wiped my mouth, I heard the low rumblings of 2 men talking in the room next to me. The walls of the old station must have been pretty thin, because I could definitely hear them, but not quite make out what they were saying. I looked around and no one was in sight, and my mischievous side got the better of me. I pressed my ear up against the wall, and could hear the voice of Sergeant Pierre. No, he said he found it. These idiots. Why do they keep writing it down? I told him 1,000,000 times. It'll bite us in the ass one day. The whole thing will be in the shitter. The other voice was raspy, and he sounded annoyed. What did they get their jollies off? Reading it 2 months from now. The raspy voice continued. Well, so then what? What do we do here? Sergeant Pierre asked calmly. Shit. Where'd the kid say he was going? The raspy voice gives him. I'll give you one guess. After a short pause. He alone? No. Said he was traveling with his girlfriend. waiting for him in the car. Said it was a little lake retreat. Well then, ain't this serendipitous? Seems like it'll all work itself out in the end. The raspy voice laughed. Okay, I'm trying to scroll back up to the top because I don't remember what the title of the story was. Phone, be more responsive. As I try really hard to make it scroll back up to the top because I can't remember. I assume it's Lake Retreat. I kind of remember. Okay.